3 exercise mistakes that made my lumbar spinal stenosis worse. Hi, my name is Dr. Rob Bates. I'm a chiropractor and a certified athletic trainer. And once I was able to identify these 3 exercises and make the appropriate changes, that's when I saw long-term changes and eventually correction of my lumbar spinal stenosis. Before performing any of these activities, make sure you talk to your healthcare provider, make sure this is right for you. The first exercise mistake was stretching or overstretching. I was using stretches merely just for an aspirin, as I called them aspirin stretches. And eventually what was happening is really being counterproductive and making things worse because I wasn't really correcting the cause of the problem. So what I needed to do is I needed to apply those stretches appropriately. So with lumbar spinal stenosis, typically people are going to have tight hips and ankles and mid-back. So I was using eccentric type of exercises with the hips to where it was lengthening and strengthening those areas on the internal rotation, the external rotators, to where it will free up and mobilize the hips. Then I was providing motion in the ankles, increasing motion in the mid-back. And once I did that, that took a lot of pressure off that low back. But then also the low back was very sensitive. So we had to desensitize that and we had to protect it. So we had to use isometric exercises in the form of lateral planks, front planks, farmer's walks. And we'd use all those isometrics to stabilize the lumbar spine. So we're getting better motion in the hips, the mid-back, the ankles, which was taking pressure off that low back while we're stabilizing it and cooling that down. That was a huge step in making progress in correcting that lumbar spinal stenosis. The next exercise was making things worse was flexion exercises, or exclusively flexion exercises. Because what we're taught with lumbar spinal stenosis is that you need to flex the spine or use those dominant flexion exercises to open up the spaces, because with lumbar spinal stenosis, it's a narrowing, and that narrowing puts pressure on the nerves. And when you flex, for example, when you flex forward, so for example, people go out for walks, and one of the symptoms that they have is they get pain in the back if they're walking for long periods of time, or if they're standing for long periods of time, they get pain in the back or down the leg. So by just merely bending down and flexing, that helps open up this space here, so it allows to release the pressure on those nerves and creates a temporary pain relief. How the spine works, optimally, a normal spine is going to have a curve in it like this. It's much easier and efficient for those muscles to work. The disc is going to be sitting there correctly, and this is the way you want to be standing comfortably for long periods of time or walking. It's able to absorb the stress through the spine. With people with lumbar spinal stenosis, their spine's typically stuck more without a lack of curve like this. And then when you start using flexion exercises, it further opens up the area like this. So one technique that's taught is to use the butt tuck. And the butt tuck is basically you tuck the pelvis under, and that'll open up this area as you're standing. And you're taught to walk around this way and stand this way, and that'll allow you to stand longer and walk longer without pain. The problem is you have this weakened structure to where the muscles are working overtime, and it's creating a lot of compression of those muscles working overtime. And then the discs are going to start migrating backwards, and that'll create a further narrowing of that hole. So things will get worse if you don't start applying more of the extension exercises in it. So the way that you would do that, when you go for a walk, you still use the flexion exercise. Let's say if you're bracing abdominals, you can tuck a little bit. And once it starts getting more pain relief, let's say you go for a little walk, you would lean on a park bench or a wall and hang off, so this part would hang off and it'll traction out and give some pain relief. Then you'd come off that wall, you'd brace in the abdominal areas, you contract the glutes, but you start bringing that a little bit of arch back into that spine as long as there's no pain, and then you go for a walk again until it starts giving you some pain, then you go ahead and decompress again. Could take 15 seconds, 30 seconds. Come back up. You reset your posture, brace in these two areas, and make sure that you're just not in this flex posture, and go for a walk. And as you do this time and time again, then the body will start adapting more to this new position. And you're going to see that you're able to stay longer and longer in this position. Now, the next exercise that is making things worse is extension exercises. So extension exercises, of course, you do extension exercises too soon, on that area that's already narrowed, it will start irritating the lumbar spinal stenosis and make things worse. However, you have to gently scale that up, like we were talking about with the walking, and use things like passive type of extension work and certain types of tractions to gradually work that curve back into your spine. And this is the direction that you have to go in order to get this full correction of your lumbar spinal stenosis. So you need to use the mobilization. You got to free up the hips, got to free up the ankles, the mid-back, got to stabilize the spine with the isometrics, like we were talking about, the farmer's walks, the planks, and you have to do your decompression walking, and you can use flexion exercises to help relieve the pain, and then you can gradually work the extension back in, use the passive extension exercises, use the traction, and look at the other videos that we have coming up, and I'll get more in detail on specifically these different topics.